Ines Raya, Pound Unit. Commencing operations.
Alrighty, going over her abilities. First one, Chain Lightning. So we fire a Chain Lightning forward. This will bounce between multiple enemies to deal damage. And inflict Conductor on enemies hit. When attacking these enemies with Conductor, you deal increased damage. Now for skill 1, this is just our skill power, times 51.9%. We have a base duration of 30 seconds on the Conductor. So it has a 7-second cooldown, so not that long at all, and then with our current slotted mods, take that down to 4.4. Now without our red mod slotted, it actually bounces between 7 enemies, and has a movement speed of 10,000. And the max bounce increase is based on your skill effect range divided by 0.4, and that damage is your skill power times 207.7. So it's actually pretty high damage values to start. For skill 2, the Lightning Conductor, so we create current coils on nearby enemies to deal damage. This also creates current coils on all enemies with Conductor to deal damage. And then it inflicts Conductor on those hit. When attacking enemies, we deal that increased damage. So essentially you'll start off with your first ability, hit as much enemies as possible, and then go into that second ability to get that burst of damage. And this has a base cooldown of 10 seconds with an MP cost of 75, and this is our skill power times 4.24 for the damage. Pretty strong. Damage range at base is 15 meters. Going on, a little range mod takes us up to 28.8 meters, which isn't half bad. Max target count is 3 enemies hit. And then we can increase that, skill effect range divided by 0.5. Now this one actually does more additional damage to enemies with Conductor on them, with our skill power times 106.0, as opposed to times 51.9 with that first ability. Then going into the third ability, Discharge. Now this will be one that'll change as well with our red mod for this particular build. But at base, we actually charge our hands with electricity, thrust it forward to release a bolt of lightning, charging the current, which you can hold down the button longer to increase the damage in the range. Now releasing at the peak deals the most damage. And you also inflict Conductor on enemies hit. Now this has a whopping scale of damage on enemies afflicted with Conductor. It's our skill power times 921.0. Now we do have a minimum range of 8 meters times 4 meters. With our current mod, it's slotted up to 15.4 meters times 7.7 meters. And then a max range up to 20 meters times 6. That's then taken up to 38.5 meters times 11.5 with our slotted range mod. We're able to get the cooldowns from 15 seconds to 9.3, which isn't bad at all. And we do have a plasma cost on use, which is essentially our resource that we build up over time. We'll get into that when we go over the passive. And lastly, our ultimate ability. Snare Hunter. We throw a plasma acceleration coil forward and create a thunder snare at the point of impact for a certain period of time. When using the skill, we get short circuit, and while short circuit is active, dark current deals damage at the max damage rate. We also inflict conductor on enemies hit by thunder snare, and it creates current coils on nearby enemies to deal damage. When attacking enemies, we deal more increased damage. So again, another whopping amount of damage from our abilities. She has a pretty high multiplier at base, guys, so we're really just stacking on a lot of raw skill power where we can. We do have a modifier here as we have a few focus on things just to kind of work on the cooldowns as well. But she does have pretty high base values for her modifiers. Now, our stat cooldown is starting 30 seconds at base. We're able to take it down to 18.7. You can probably further reduce it by maybe 3 seconds if you have cooldown on your reactor, which we'll talk about later when we go into the reactor. This has a plasma cost of 350. Now, our projectile damage is our skill power times 392.7. The duration is at 10 seconds. Just having a 2-piece annihilation literally only took it up to 10.6 seconds. We do have continuous damage of skill power times 52.4. Continuous damage interval is every 0.5 seconds. And the continuous damage range is increased also due to our range mod. Takes it up from base from 7.5 up to 14.4. The max expandable range of 200%. The short circuit duration is 10 seconds at base. We do also get a movement speed increase amount by 50%. The current coil's damage range is taken up from 15 meters at base to 28.8. That damages our skill power times 65.5. The damage interval here is every 2.4 seconds. The max target count of 3. Now, the count increase is our skill effect range divided by 0.5 up to an expandable range of 200%. So pretty nice values if you want to tack on more range here and there. But based on how we have everything set up today, not that is really necessary at all. But to note with this, the additional damage though is only our skill power times 16.4% to enemies afflicted with Conductor. So you're not really gonna see a major burst of damage from our ultimate. You'll see more damage coming from Discharge here with the highest, multiplier value when attacking an enemy inflicted with Conductor. So do keep that in mind. You want to be keeping the cooldowns on this as low as possible and making sure you use this for your big burst of damage. And lastly, going over her passive, this is where things get a bit more juicy and interesting. So we do have a skill critical hit rate increase as max MP increases. Now our skill critical hits against enemies with Conductor have a chance to restore MP. Any firearm or skill critical hits on an enemy with Conductor have a chance to cause Dark Current. Killing enemies with Conductor with the effect expiring will still trigger Dark Current. Now, this deals a portion of its damage to nearby targets based on max MP and inflicts Conductor on enemies hit. It's essentially how we can clear the maps as quick as we can. By proccing Dark Current, that's when you'll see that big burst of damage of AoE to all the targets on field. We also charge Plasma whenever you inflict Conductor on an enemy, which is our key resource to actually use these stronger moves are 3 and 4. Now our skill critical hit rate increase is only based on our max MP times 6.5. Now on skill critical hit on enemies with Conductor, the trigger rate is 5% for the MP, the recovery amount is 5%, but the Dark Current trigger rate is 100%. Now on firearm critical hit on enemies with Conductor, the Dark Current trigger rate is 10%, so your lowest value. So you want to make sure you're using your skills to keep the Dark Current going. Now, Dark Current damage, your max MP times your damage multiplier times the minimum damage rate minus the max damage rate. Your skill critical hit rate for the damage multiplier is your skill critical hit rate times 46.0. Minimum damage rate is your max MP divided by 12%, and the minimum damage rate max is 50%, and then the max damage rate is 100%. Only 3 monsters to hit. And then when inflicting Conductor, you charge 2.5% of your plasma. Pretty nice values here. You're really going to be stacking a lot of MP where we can. We do go in and spec into crit here because it's more necessary than going, raw skill power with some of those new mods they brought in. In contrast to using someone like Bunny, how we started with crit, they gave us new mods and then we went over to those other ones and we got rid of crit. You're building full crit into an S. Now really quick, as soon as we slot in our red mod of choice, time of hunting hounds, time recording this, they did have this on rotation in one of the 400% dungeons, as well as her other red mod is available in a 400% dungeon. It's not yet on rotation, so do make sure you kind of look at those values. You can also get them from combining, as well as Colossus. Now when we actually put this on, this gives us maximum stacks of 3 for floating lightning, so we have 3 charges to use it. It reduces the max bounces from 7 down to 4. The movement speed is down from 10,000 to 5,000 now. There's no increase, let me double check here. There is no increase to your multiplier here, that remains the same. And now going over snare acrobatics, this essentially just modified this and made it even better in terms of animation. Now we kind of get a dash with it, we can clear some distance, do more damage. And get pierce damage. It's just overall 100 times better, guys. This is going to be the red mod you want through that mob clearing. Now, our pierce damage is our skill power times 632.7. The burst damage is the skill power times 3,752.7, guys, with a max damage increase of 100%. The pierce range, 12 meters at base times 12 meters. Go to 23.1 meters times 23.1 meters. The radius goes up from 2.5 minimum to 4.8, as well as radius 5 meters max to radius of 9.6 based on our current selection. And enemies afflicted with Conductor, that additional damage will be the skill power times 468.6. So pretty beefy numbers there, guys. I'll just kind of show you kind of where we're at here. This stayed the same. We have that skill power by 3684 here, as well as the Conductor damage 921 there. As soon as we slot this in here, we can now get additional damage in here from the pierce damage, which is huge. To note, the Conductor damage kind of went down a little bit, and essentially it's just moved over into the pierce damage. You're still doing the same damage line, it's just now over into your pierce damage instead. When you're doing it slightly a little more in the pierce area. So I would say maybe somewhere around a little, maybe 100% more damage, just because they added that line of pierce damage. And they're all compounded together. It's just what increases all the damage in total. Less diminishing returns. Now we've got a red mod in here. Grapple, like I said, up to you. You always use the grapple, whatever you like. I do prefer the 3 here. I like to just grapple with 3. It makes moving around a little easier. You want nimble fingers in here for the skill cooldown, of course. The one increased HP mod. As well as focus on tech. We have the focus on tech here for the cooldown, as well as increasing our tech skill power modifier a wee bit more. Do have enlightenment here to increase the max MP. Do have a focus on electric for the flat electric skill power, but mainly as well that skill cooldown. That's why we go with the focus on mods in this build. We have skill expansion for the skill effect range to allow everything to cover the wide range. And then we go with our critical hit mods. We're actually rocking emergency measures here. Skill critical hit rate, as well as the skill critical hit damage. We do have front lines in here as well. Skill critical hit damage and the hit rate. And then we throw concentration here for the crit hit damage. There's no need to have the other one for the crit hit rate due to our passive. And then lastly, our final improvement here is the shield conversion MP. So essentially we're increasing our max MP by as much as we can, and this is going to reduce our max shield as well. So do be careful when you use the 3 around the exploding enemies and any, hazardous areas. You could accidentally nuke yourself as well because your max shield is going to be lower. But you want as much max MP in here as possible. These will be the last things I'll up with my current build, just maxing this mod out, and then we're complete. And then focus on getting the cooldowns down a bit. Once you kind of have more crystals to slot everything, you kind of move into the critical stuff. But in the leveling process, I actually ran another mod to keep the cooldowns more. Just in the meantime, it's all up to you during your leveling process. If you have a lot saved, since it's not really difficult to level up now, especially with all the rewards we've been getting, don't worry about it, just slot all this stuff in, crystal them, and keep her moving. Now, going over other red mod, I want to briefly touch on that. It's going to kind of make her more into a tanky character. So I do want to actually get that mod unlocked and do a build on that as well. We didn't get lucky to actually, craft it from combining all the modules we had during our leveling process. So at a later date, we'll cover that. But just to kind of go over it here, it removes the increase to the skill critical hit rate proportional to the max MP effect of the passive skill. Instead, you create a barrier of plasma at regular intervals. Essentially, this is acting as extra defense, essentially a shield. Seen some gameplay of it, and you're just immune to damage entirely during that little duration of it. So this is going to be very nice to make a nice tank build out of. But some of the requirements here, maybe you'll get lucky and get them from combining the modules. If not, when it's on the Kingston or it's Slumber Valley, you may be able to get that in the 400% dungeon, or farm hard Obstructor for it. And that's kind of our Ines build, guys. I'm going to show some more gameplay in, and then kind of go over these components. These kind of remain the same through a lot of the builds, mostly. With skill characters, I like the 2-piece Annihilation. You squeeze out as much as you can. You want your max MP on a yellow line, and that's going to increase our damage some more. You have a character XP gain here, it's just there. You would want the consumable drop rate. And then on our memory, we have the max HP. Again, this is kind of just how we're rocking with ours. We have an MP recovery modifier, the firearm proficiency there. On your processor, you want the actual 2 sets that you can get from the Void Vessel stuff, as those give you the most value. So you want those max HP. On your processor, the item and equipment increase stuff, that remains the same. On your auxiliary, you want your max HP, and then MP recovery, that remains the same as well. Now regarding your reactor, so again, this will be up to you guys. It depends on kind of resource you have. We don't really have a good reactor yet, but you want that tech reactor on electric. And then your substats, you either want a tech and electric boost, if you want to squeeze out more damage, or if you want more cooldown so you can actually use your ultimate a bit more, you could do one, either electric or tech, and then your skill cooldown, and that'll be good for you there. Now weapon-wise, her best weapon will be the Secret Garden for now, once you slot that red mod in, as it turns all of our skills into tech skills. And we benefit greatly using Secret Garden there over something like the Blue Beetle. Blue Beetle really shines on Sharon due to her having those fusion skills. So I don't think Blue Beetle will even really be even a sub option here, because the other ability doesn't really do anything, it just cleanses a debuff. It's not really need for that when you can do Secret Garden and tack on more damage. And that's the build, guys. The Ines build for part 2 of season 2, guys. If you guys enjoyed, make sure you guys leave a like and subscribe, ring the bell, leave a comment down below what you guys think of their new Descendant. Does she live up to the hype or not? Just don't get blown up. Remember that other mod? Once we level it up, we're gonna have less shield, so don't get blown up. I'm gonna charge it up once more. Beautiful. Should demo this whole room with just one. Potentially. Anyone on the left side, too. Maybe more than 2. That one didn't go that good. Tell you, Frayne is just too good, right? Everything would just spread and just nuke everything still. But Ines is no slouch. You can put up some good AoE as well. But there's nothing like just all the poison just nuking everything. Actually, I'm gonna do one more run in this particular mission without the red mod on. That lowers the chaining potential with the first ability. Oh, that hurts. Oh, we're dead. Still died by mechanics, unfortunately. Got froze as soon as he charged up that ultra shot. We killed him. Yep, we killed him. He just stomped in the tree, just died. They were outside of the mission somehow.